up, YouTube? Thomas L here. Of course, with the Oscars this week, since I already just did, I of course just did my top 10 favorite Oscar-winning lead actors and lead actresses. Now I'm gonna do my top 10 favorite Oscar-winning supporting actors. Of course, these are actors who won the Oscar for their supporting role, and also that being said, here's my list. Coming in at number 10 will be Javier Bardem winning for No Country for Old Men. I mean, Javier Bardem as the killer Chiggar was terrific. I mean, Javier Bardem was very menacing as that role. I mean, of course, the coin trick. I mean, that's kind of an iconic scene by now. It was directed by the Coen brothers. Besides Javier Bardem, you also had Tommy Lee Jones, Josh Brolin, and the movie also won Best Picture, if I'm not mistaken. It's a terrific movie, and Javier Bardem winning for this, I thought, was a well-deserving win. And it was actually the movie that kind of made me become a fan of Javier Bardem. I mean, I've probably seen him in stuff before, No Country for Old Men, but it was pretty much this movie that kind of made me, think that this guy was really awesome. And when Javier Bardem won his award, he actually beat out Casey Affleck for Assassination of Jesse James, Philip Seymour Hoffman for Charlie Wilson's War, Hal Holbrook for Into the Wild, and Tom Wilkinson for Michael Clayton. And of course, out of all of them, he was pretty much the one that gave the better performance out of the nominees. Yeah, I mean, if you guys never seen No Country for Old Men, definitely check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. Coming in at number 9 is Sam Rockwell winning for 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I mean, Sam Rockwell is pretty much those actors who you mainly know by face, but you don't really know by name. And before this, I always thought Sam Rockwell was a tragically underrated actor. And I mean, he scored a few Oscar nominations before him, but sadly he never actually won. But I gotta say, him winning for 3 Billboards was a well-deserving win. I thought his sheriff in this was really terrific. I mean, Sam Rockwell was just amazing in this movie. And of course, it was a film that won Frances McDormand her second Oscar as well. But I mean, yeah, definitely Sam Rockwell winning for 3 Billboards. This was definitely a well-deserving win because he played the hot-headed deputy sheriff in this really well. Yeah, I mean, 3 Billboards is definitely a well worth a watch. And Sam Rockwell beat out William Dafoe for The Florida Project, Woody Harrelson for 3 Billboards, Richard Jenkins for The Shape of Water, and Christopher Plummer for All the Money in the World. And not to mention, Sam Rockwell is nominated again this year for playing George W. Bush in Vice. I don't think he's going to win this year, but I'm just glad he has an Oscar, period, because it was definitely well-deserving. All right, coming in at number 8 will be Christian Bale winning for The Fighter. Now, The Fighter was, of course, directed by David O. Russell and, of course, starred Mark Wahlberg as famed boxer Mickey Ward. And Christian Bale won for playing his half-brother Dixie, who's like a crack addict. And Christian Bale, I mean, he got really skinny because, of course, he was playing a crack addict, and crack addicts are pretty skinny. So, I mean, Christian Bale playing that role I think it's probably his best performance he's given. He was just terrific. I mean, he was really unrecognizable. And again, that's always with Christian Bale. He always plays roles where he's unrecognizable. I mean, his body transformation is crazy. I mean, in Vice, he pretty much pretty much had like guess like a put on a few pounds, and he put on crazy makeup for playing Dick Cheney. And I mean, he was perfect as that role. And of course, he bulked up for the Dark Knight. He of course up was really skinny in the Mechanic, not the Mechanic, Machinist, I think it was called. But anyway, I'm really happy that Christian Bale finally won his Oscar for The Fighter. I mean, he was terrific in this movie, and he's probably going to win again for playing Dick Cheney in Vice. But I'm still leaning towards that Rami Malek's going to win that Oscar. But that's another topic for another time. Anyway, when Christian Bale won his award for The Fighter, here he actually beat it out John Hawkes for Winter's Bone, Jeremy Renner for The Town, Mark Ruffalo for The Kids Are Alright, and Jeffrey Rush for The King's Speech. Of course, out of all of them, Christian Bale gave the better performance, so that was definitely a well-deserving award. Coming in at number 7 will be J.K. Simmons winning for Whiplash. Now, kind of like Sam Rockwell, before J.K. Simmons won his award for Whiplash, J.K. Simmons was always like that guy type of actor, meaning actors you probably know seen by face, but you don't really know their names. And that's pretty much the case with J.K. Simmons. I mean, he's a character actor. He's been around like before. I mean, before Whiplash, of course, he played J. Jonah Jameson as Spider-Man. He did lots of films with Jason Reitman. And I'm happy that J.K. Simmons finally won his Oscar for Whiplash. Because to me, it's probably his best performance he's ever given. I mean, he's pretty much the drum instructor for Miles Teller's Andrew Neiman character. He's, of course, like a young jazz drummer. And I mean, J.K. Simmons is Terrence Fletcher is a very hard-ass character. I mean, the stuff that J.K. Simmons has to do as the role of Terrence Fletcher is crazy. I mean, he had to yell at Miles Teller so much. He pretty much like technically abused him, if you want to look at it that way. And I mean, he was really hard on Miles Teller's character. I mean, who never knew that playing drums could be so intense? And I mean, what Damon Chazelle did with J.K. Simmons' character, Terrence Fletcher, is just terrific. And it's, like I said, it's J.K. Simmons' best work he's ever given. And when J.K. Simmons won his award, he beat out Robert Duvall for The Judge, Ethan Hawke for Boyhood, Ed Norton for Birdman, and Mark Ruffalo for Foxcatcher. Out of all of them, J.K. Simmons definitely gave the better performance. Well, that probably would have given it to Ethan Hawke as well, because Ethan Hawke needs an Oscar, but J.K. Simmons winning for Whiplash that's definitely a well-deserving award from him. Coming in at number 6 is Edmund Gwenn winning for Miracle on 34th Street. Now, of course, this is the classic Christmas movie with Edmund Gwenn as Santa Claus. Of course, it was the film the film debut of Natalie Wood. And I actually never really seen Edmund Gwenn in hardly anything else. Like, the only major thing I really seen him in was Miracle on 34th Street, and it's one of my favorite Christmas movies. That, of course, back in December, I did my 10 favorite Christmas films, and of course, Miracle on 34th Street was in that list. It's a very terrific movie. I mean, Edmund Gwenn playing Santa was just amazing. And the story was pretty terrific. I mean, Miracle on 34th Street is a classic. It got released in the early 40s, and this is a movie that still holds up today. And it all has to do with Gwenn's amazing performance. And I think that was a well-deserving one. Now, when Edmund Gwenn won his award, He beat out a few other people. Evan Gwen beat it out Charles Bickford for The Farmer's Daughter. Thomas Gomez for Ride the Pink Horse. Robert Ryan for Crossfire, and Richard Widmark for Kiss of Death. Pretty much Miracle on the First Street is the only film I've seen in that category. But it's a terrific performance and a well-deserving win. All right, coming in at number 5 will be Christopher Walken winning for The Deer Hunter. The Deer Hunter is a really terrific war movie. I mean, here it's set in 1968, and it's about 3 factory workers: Robert De Niro, Christopher Walken, and John Savage, who are factory workers from Pennsylvania, who pretty much enlists into the army to fight in Vietnam. And before they go, John Savage's Steven character marries a pregnant woman named Angela, and at their wedding party, they pretty much serves as the it's pretty much like a man's farewell. And so after some time and horrors, the three friends fought in the hands of a Viet Cong, and are brought into a prison camp in which they are forced to play a very game of Russian roulette against each other. And it's a really intense film. I mean, the three characters pretty much had to go against each other. And I mean, to be honest, I haven't seen this movie for a while, but I remember when I first saw it, I really dug it. And the performances by Robert De Niro, John Savage, and definitely Christopher Walken was all good. And Christopher Walken, I think it's his best performance ever. I mean, he was terrific in this movie. So it's definitely a well-deserving win for him. And who doesn't love Christopher Walken? I mean, that guy's just always the best. And I mean, if you guys never seen The Deer Hunter, I highly recommend it. I think you'll probably enjoy The Deer Hunter. And when Christopher Walken won for The Deer Hunter, he actually beat it out Bruce Dern for Coming Home, Richard Farnsworth for Comes a Horseman, John Hurt for Midnight Express, and Jack Warden for Heaven Can Wait. Christopher Walken definitely gave the better performance out of the bunch. All right, coming in at number 4 will be Marlon Landau winning for Ed Wood. Now, Ed Wood is pretty much a movie about probably one of the infamous worst directors ever, Ed Wood. And here it stars Marlon Landau as Bela Lugosi, who of course played the famous Dracula. Marlon Landau as Bela Lugosi, that was genius casting, and it's pretty much my favorite Marlon Landau performance. I mean, he was really captivating as Bela Lugosi. I mean, they put tons of makeup on to make him look like a Bela Lugosi. Really, I mean, that was a really great casting they did. And I mean, it was of course directed by Tim Burton. It starred Johnny Depp as the title role. Amazing movie. If you guys never seen Ed Wood, definitely check it out. And when Marlon Landau won the award, he actually beat out Samuel L. Jackson for Pulp Fiction, Chaz Palminteri for Bullets Over Broadway, Paul Scofield for Quiz Show, and Gary Sinise for Forrest Gump. I probably would have given it to Sam Jackson for Pulp Fiction, but Marlon Landau was still great as Bela Lugosi, so that's still deserving one. All right, coming in at number 3 is the late great Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting. Of course, playing the therapist Sean McGuire, who's of course the therapist to Matt Damon's Will Hunting character, who's of course has a very genius level IQ. And I mean, Good Will Hunting, directed by Gus Van Sant, starring Matt Damon, Ben Affleck. Oh yeah, Minnie Driver was in this. Good Will Hunting is a '90s classic, and it's of course one of Robert Williams' best work. I mean, of course, he has some really great lines in here. Like some of the scenes with Robert Williams here is iconic. I mean, like one scene in particular when he tells Damon's character, "It's not your fault." That's an iconic line. Yeah, I mean, Good Will Hunting it's got released in I think '98 or '97 around those time, and it's a movie that still holds up today. And like I said, it's Robin Williams' best work, and I'm glad he won his Oscar for this. I mean, like before this, he scored a few Oscar nominations and all, but I believe like this was his first win and a really deserving win. As he was great. And when Robert Williams won his award, he beat out Robert Forster for Jackie Brown, Anthony Hopkins for Amistad, Greg Kinnear for As Good as It Gets, and Burt Reynolds for Boogie Nights. I probably would have given it to Burt Reynolds for Boogie Nights, but Robert Williams, that was definitely a well-deserving award. All right, coming in at number 2 is Heath Ledger winning for The Dark Knight. Now, of course, this movie got released, around the time Heath Ledger passed, and when he won his award, Christopher Nolan actually went up and accepted the award on Ledger's behalf. This was a great performance. I mean, lots of people will actually probably say that, oh man, Heath Ledger only won because he passed. Nope, he won because he was awesome as this role. And I mean, him as the Joker was terrifying. I mean, he was really great as the Joker, And I think that was definitely a well-deserving win in my opinion. And I mean, before this, I believe Heath Ledger also scored an Oscar nomination for Brokeback Mountain as well, but he didn't win for that. I mean, Dark Knight is, of course, the best performance of his career. He was terrific here, and I think this was like the first time an actor in a comic book movie ever actually won an Oscar. So there's that. I mean, amazing performance. So definitely that was a well-deserving win. And when Heath Ledger won his award for The Dark Knight, he also beat out Josh Brolin for Milk, Robert Downey Jr. for Tropic Thunder, Philip Seymour Hoffman for Doubt, and Micah Shannon for Revolutionary Road. Definitely the well-deserving win was Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight. I mean, it was a great performance, so yeah. All right, now my number 1 favorite Oscar-winning supporting actor ever, that's going to go to Joe Pesci for Goodfellas. Of course, the movie that should have won Best Picture, but that's another topic for another time. But I'm just glad Joe Pesci won for Goodfellas. I mean, him as Tommy DeVito, that was perfect. I mean, I really don't think Goodfellas could work if Joe Pesci wasn't in it. I mean, him as Tommy DeVito was perfect. I mean, some of the scenes that Joe Pesci had in this movie was terrific. Joe Pesci was incredible as Tommy DeVito. And I mean, of course, he had a cast surround him like, you got Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro, who else was in this? Oh yeah, Paul Sorvino. But the best performance out of the bunch will always be Joe Pesci in Goodfellas. I mean, he was just amazing in this movie. Yeah, I mean, it's probably my favorite Joe Pesci performance as well. I've seen Goodfellas tons of times, and it's pretty also one of my favorite gangster movies out there. It's a classic. I mean, it got released in the 1990s, and it's a movie that still holds up today. And Joe Pesci in anything gangster related always gets my attention. Which, of course, I cannot wait for The Irishman. By the way, I know I'm good. I'm going off track, but The Irishman, which is directed by Scorsese, starring Pesci, De Niro, Al Pacino. I'm completely pumped for that movie. So can't wait to see Joe Pesci back on the screen with that. I mean, it's nice to see Joe Pesci making a comeback because he was always the best. And yeah, like Peter Griffin said on a episode of Family Guy, you see, people back in the '90s, that is what a tough guy looked like. Yeah, Joe Pesci winning for Goodfellas is definitely a well-deserving win. And when Joe Pesci won for Goodfellas, he actually beat out Bruce Davison for longtime companion, Andy Garcia for The Godfather Part 3, Graham Greene for Dances with Wolves, and Al Pacino for Dick Tracy. But of course, out of all the Joe Pesci winning for Goodfellas is the best. It's a better performance in my opinion. I still think Goodfellas should have won Best Picture that year, but what are you gonna do? Anyway, that's pretty much it. Let me do the quick rundown. Number 10, Javier Bardem for No Country for Old Men. 9, Sam Rockwell for 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. 8, Christian Bale for The Fighter. 7, J.K. Simmons for Whiplash. 6, Ed McGuinn for Miracle on 34th Street. 5, Christopher Walken for The Deer Hunter. 4, Martin Landau for Ed Wood. 3, Robert Williams for Good Will Hunting. 2, Heath Ledger for The Dark Knight. 1, Joe Pesci for Goodfellas. Now, there's loads of other ones I probably could have added. Let's see. Christoph Waltz for both Django Unchained and Glorious Bastards is a good one. Benicio del Toro for Traffic. Tim Robbins for Mystic River. Mahershala Ali for Moonlight. He's probably going to win for Green Book. Let's see. Mark Rylance for Bridge of Spies was okay. I still think Sylvester Stallone should have won that year, but let's see. Jared Leto for Dallas Buyers Club. Christopher Plummer for Beginners. Alan Arkin for Little Miss Sunshine. Morgan Freeman for $1 Million Baby. George Clooney for Syriana. Cuba Gooding Jr. For Jerry Maguire. Tommy Lee Jones for The Fugitive. Jack Palance for City Slickers. He was good at that, but I still think probably maybe Tommy Lee Jones or Harvey Keitel should have won that year. But let's see. Denzel for Glory. Sean Connery for The Untouchables. Jack Nicholson for Terms of Endearment. Louis Gossett Jr. for An Officer and a Gentleman. Timothy Hutton for Ordinary People. Jason Robards for All the President's Men and Julia. George Burns for The Sunshine Boys. Robert De Niro for Godfather Part 2. Kevin Spacey for Usual Suspects. Lots of good Oscar wins. Anyway, let me leave it to you guys. What are some of your favorite Oscar-winning supporting actors? Drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell for more notifications. This here is Thomas L. signing on.